In this video, we're going to talk about how to install Visual Studio Code on a Windows 11 computer. The steps are pretty similar for other versions of Windows. So we're going to open up a browser and search for Visual Studio Code. And then when we open the web page, we'll click the download button and wait for that to complete. And once it does, we'll click on the executable to launch the installer. And we'll accept the license agreement, accept the default installation, although you can change it if you want. And then here, you have the option to add Open with Code to your context menus, and you can choose to do that if you want. I'm going to not do it here because I use a different editor in those cases. And then once you've made your selections, you can go ahead and click Next. So we'll wait for the install to complete, then click Finish, and it'll launch Visual Studio Code after you finish installation. So you'll notice you get some options here for what type of color theme you want to pick, and go ahead and make that selection. For now, I would leave the rest of these as defaults. You can change them later. So before you start actually editing code, I would recommend that you click this tab so that you can install some extensions that'll help you work better in Visual Studio Code. So for example, I do a lot of C and C++, so I would install the C and C++ extension. There's also a Python extension. And so that's installed. Let me search for Scheme. There's a Scheme extension. I personally use the VS Code Scheme extension. I find that that one works a little better, so that's the one I'm going to install. You could try one of the others and see if it works better for you, but this is the one that I've been using, and it's the one that I prefer. And then let's look for a Prolog extension, and I believe VSC Prolog is the one that I've used in the past with good luck, so I will install that. So it looks like it wants me to install Python, and that's if I want to run the code from inside Visual Studio Code. And I prefer not to do that. I like to run it from a command line, so I'm going to skip out on doing that. I can do that later. And so now I'm ready to start editing some code. So this top tab will bring up a list of what's in the folder you have open. So you could, if you want, open a folder, and that would let you see the files that are there. It's really nice, especially if you are using something like GitHub or GitLab or anything where there's a folder that's full of files you want. Or you can create a folder that's not tied to a source repository as well. But I'm just going to create a new file. And you'll notice there's this thing up here to select a language. And I could select a language here so that I can get some syntax highlighting. And if I have an extension installed, it would also load that extension. But I can also save this file, and I'll save it in my documents folder. Normally I would want to create a different folder. And I will call this vsc.c. Now the .c extension lets it know that it's a C file. And you'll notice down here it's saying, hey, do you want to install this C extension? So I was like, well, I thought I did before. I must have skipped that. I might not have clicked install, I guess. So I'll click install now, and that'll load the C and C++ extension pack. You get some really nice stuff in there. The main feature, of course, is the nice syntax highlighting. So you notice once it's installed, you can see some really nice syntax highlighting I'm getting, and that's always really helpful when it comes to writing code. So here's my C program, and then I could save this. You'll notice here I get this error, and that's just because it doesn't know where to find the include file, so it gives me that warning. That's not really that big a deal. You can ignore those types of errors. So this is a quick introduction to using Visual Studio Code.